Welcome back to the channel. In today's dream diary, there is 2 stories to share. I discovered why my neighbor is always awake at night, and the items found under the floorboard left me running for my life. I live in a nice neighborhood in Denmark, where the standard of life is high, and the price you pay is having your act together. I'm a night owl, but energetic, so I find ways to balance my late-night lifestyle with my corporate job, which allows me to live in this very proper part of town. People here dress well, don't smoke, and don't stay up late. Except for one neighbor. I've never met them, but I started noticing their kitchen light often stays on quite late. I could see it from my kitchen, my light also being on, but as I said, I consider myself an exception to how people in this area and building choose to live. At first, I thought they were just having a party, which is why they were up as late as midnight or even later. But then I noticed it's more frequent. In fact, every time I went into the kitchen, I would note their kitchen light is on. I would wash some dishes and meal prep for tomorrow, noting with the corner of my eye that they seemed to be doing the same. It's not polite to stare at people in Denmark, so I avoided approaching the window, but after months of seeing their light on, I got curious. One night, I was a bit drunk, and lockdown had made me feel isolated, so I just went to the window and took a long look at that place across the yard, same floor as me. I was a bit shocked to see they did the same, coming to the window and looking seemingly right at me. Very uncharacteristic of Danes. I thought maybe this could be romantic. As I said, I was a bit tipsy, so I thought it would be fun to write hi on a piece of paper and put it to my window. My heart skipped a beat in excitement when I saw them putting up their own hi sign shortly after. Now I know they've seen me, and what's more, they're just as curious as I am. A bit too much interaction at that time, though, so I just turned the light off and went to bed. The next evening, I was eager to see if they were still in that kitchen when everybody else around us was fast asleep. Maybe we could share another secret moment. I go to the kitchen, turn the light on, and go straight to the window. Almost instantly, their light goes on, and I see them go straight to that window again. I'm so glad I'm not the only one excited and anticipating this strange interaction. I don't even know if that's a man or a woman, how old they are, or what they think this interaction is. I just know our curiosity is shared. I keep coming to the window every night, but I don't want to lead, so I wait for them to put up another sign. But they never did. They just show up when I show up and leave after I leave. Until one night. I came back from a party. I was drunk and craving interaction but anxious to be close to people since the lockdown, so I was thrilled by this unique, intimate bond with someone I don't have to be close to. I could comfortably be involved but not committed in any way, as I could safely leave and go to bed at any time. I drunkenly rushed to the window with my jacket still on, and surely enough, in seconds, I see their light go on, and they rush to the window. Their figure seemed a bit off somehow. I was tipsy, but they seemed a bit bigger. Then I realized they also had a jacket on. How random, but also, it's a weekend night, so no surprise. Knowing they are often up late, I assumed they were also out tonight. I felt giddy about how aligned we seemed to be. But the feeling didn't last. My heart dropped when I saw a weird shadow suddenly soaking up the kitchen light behind them like a vacuum. I'm drunk, and I know that, so I close one eye to try and clear my vision and make sense of what I see, but it gets harder to stay calm by the second. It looked like a person in the room with them, but it was strangely blurred and appeared to consume and distort that yellow kitchen light. The neighbor was still leaning on the window, looking back at me, and seemed not to register that their light was growing fainter and the shadow behind them was getting bigger and more shapely, now with limbs that seemed too skinny for its size and looked to be bending at the joints in the wrong direction than a human limb would bend. It was twisted and broken, like a human body that's been bent in every way it's not supposed to be. A head emerged on top of it with no neck, like it's been pushed into a body made of vacuum, fog, and white noise. I'm not sure what I'm looking at, but I know I'm not drunk enough to imagine something like this out of thin air. As I leaned on the window to shout, "Look behind you," it seemed this person across the yard was too distracted by me to notice what was behind them and too far to hear me. I took the piece of paper I used to say hi and turned it around to write "Look behind you" in large black letters in my panic. I looked up, and they were still focused on me, so I pushed the paper towards the glass with both hands, hoping there was time for them to react. I couldn't see what was happening as the paper I put on the level of my face to ensure it gets noticed was blocking my view. I swear I could hear my heartbeat like a drum. I held it for a minute, both wanting to make sure it's seen and too afraid to put it down and see what may have happened to them. When I took it down with shaking hands, I saw my neighbor hunched over, writing something down, as the shadow was now right behind them, towering over them, filling that room and blocking all the light that was once there, and for the first time, the whole building across the yard seemed completely dark. My heart was beating so fast, my vision was blurred, and I couldn't understand what was so important for them to be writing down right now. Just turn around, try to run, try to fight, my warning doesn't need a reply. They finally put up that paper, and cold sweat covered my body when I read the big black letters on it. Look behind you. I think my girlfriend is not who she says she is. I've been dating Chewy for 6 months. We both work as freelancers and met at a gathering organized through a Facebook group last year. Initially, we'd just chat online about meaningless things, making small talk. We clicked right away, and after months of online chatting, we decided to meet up again. Soon after, we moved in together. I had to change towns since she lived an hour away in a nearby city, but that wasn't a problem for me, as I was looking for an excuse to escape my controlling parents' grasp. At first, I was uncomfortable in her apartment and worried that she might change her mind after I moved in, but over time, that fear faded since none of my quirks or flaws seemed to bother her. Eventually, I settled in and started to feel at home. Everything was going smoothly, and I couldn't have asked for a better girlfriend. She is loving, caring, understanding, smart, has a great sense of humor, everything you'd expect from someone you love. The reason I speak about this in the past tense is because of something that happened today that I'm still struggling to comprehend. It was around 3 p.m. I had just finished work and was sitting on the couch playing video game while Chewy was getting ready to go grocery shopping. "I'll be back in about an hour," she said, putting on her glasses. "Please do the dishes and put the dirty clothes in the washing machine before I get back." "Yes, dear," I replied jokingly, pausing the game to kiss her. After about 20 minutes of killing radioactive cockroaches and running errands for wasteland survivors, I decided to tackle the chores. I washed the dishes, sighing heavily as each new dirty plate seemed to magically appear in the sink. Then I went into my office to gather the dirty clothes. I usually just throw my clothes on the floor or on the chair, which probably every procrastinator knows about. Mine happens to be one of those bar stools, with heaps of clothes threatening to fall at the slightest touch. Collecting that pile wasn't a problem, but the scattered shirts, socks, and pants on the floor were another story. Frowning, I knelt to pick up the clothes. As I leaned into the leftmost corner of the room to grab a stray shirt, I felt something. One of the floorboards moved. Loose floorboards are common here, but this one didn't just move slightly, it almost sent my hand plummeting through the floor. "What the hell?" I gasped, quickly moving the shirt aside. One of the floorboards was sticking up like a seesaw. Hesitantly, I pulled it out, dragging a string of cobweb along with it, revealing only darkness beneath. I leaned in closer, trying to catch a glimpse of anything, but it was too dark. Using the flashlight on my phone, I saw a square-shaped object inside. I immediately recognized it as an old box. Curiosity got the better of me, and I started forcefully pulling out the nearby boards. Some were stuck firmly, and it was clear that no one would have found the loose one unless they specifically stepped on it. Eventually, I created a gap wide enough to see the contents of the hole more clearly. It was indeed a shoebox, covered in thick layers of dust. I pulled it out, scraping my hands on the floorboards. I blew the dust off, making a thick cloud appear in the room for a moment before it dispersed. What was this box doing here? Was my girlfriend hiding something from me? Maybe it was an old memento from childhood. Thoughts raced through my mind as curiosity took hold. I'm not one to hesitate in situations like this, so without thinking too much about whether I'd regret it, I pulled off the lid and threw it aside, noticing a dust cloud rise from the impact. What I found inside made my hands tremble and my heart race so fast that I could feel the pulse in my throat. I'm not even sure how to begin describing it, so here's what I found among the heap of papers inside. The first thing that caught my eye was a birth certificate, Chewy's birth certificate. Nothing odd there, except for the fact that she was keeping it in a dusty old box beneath the floorboards. Then I looked at the next paper. It was a newspaper clipping. I couldn't see the date, but what horrified me was the content. It was an article about a girl who had disappeared, a 26-year-old girl named Chewy. My girlfriend's name. This must be some kind of mistake, I thought. My girlfriend never disappeared. Was it just a girl with the same name, and she kept the clipping because she thought it was a funny coincidence? I read the article over and over, especially focusing on the name until I was sure I wasn't reading it incorrectly. When I'd had enough, I placed the paper away and looked through the rest of the box. The next item was even stranger, a relic. It was an old ID card. My hands trembled so much that I almost dropped it when I saw it. The name on the card was Jennifer, but that wasn't what bothered me. What made my heart race even faster was the fact that the woman in the picture looked exactly like my girlfriend. She was more overweight than Chewy and had red hair, in contrast to my girlfriend's blonde hair. But her facial features matched Chewy's with uncanny similarity. There was also Jennifer's passport and some other legal documents, which I didn't read out of fear that Chewy could return any second. I hastily returned everything to the box, placed it back in the hole, covered it with the floorboards, and used the dirty shirt to wipe the dust from the floor. As soon as I finished, I bolted out of the apartment and texted Chewy, saying I'd gone to the gym earlier because of a meeting I had later. I knew she'd sense something was wrong if she saw me in that state, so I needed time to compose myself. And here I am, posting this now, looking over my shoulder every few minutes, afraid I'll see Chewy standing behind me, demanding an explanation. I want to go to the police, but I don't know what to say. For all I know, they could just laugh at me and send me home. What I do know is that I can't go back to that apartment. Subscribe.